Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I am your host, Kim Davis, and I'm super excited to be with you. It is Tuesday, November the 7th. I can't even believe that it's November the 7th, but it is. So I hope that you all had a restful and peaceful Labor Day weekend and that you're ready to take on these last several months of the year. This kind of signifies the start to fall or the end of summer, if you will. Um, Unless, of course, you live in a state like Texas, a place like Houston, where it's pretty much summer until, I don't know, it's not. So, anyway, but here's a few things that did happen. What we do know is that football season is officially here. It is football season. The college season was kicked off over the weekend. There were some pretty good games. Looks like they had a pretty good crowd here locally at the Labor Day Classic. Prairie View won that game. I believe the final was 40-17. There were some other big college games. That Notre Dame and Florida State game was quite a contest. There was some thoughts about Chris Kelly after Notre Dame coach after the game and the comments that he made. And listen, it is officially NFL season. The season gets underway on Thursday night with the first games. The Houston Texans open their season at home on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Two teams that, weren't very good last year. Two teams that have new coaches, so there's some new staffs. Obviously, some changes in personnel. Two teams that have new quarterbacks. So for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're starting Trevor Lawrence, who is a rookie. For the Houston Texans, they will be starting Tyrod Taylor. We pretty much knew that was going to be the case, but yesterday, Texans coach David Culley made that official. I'll let you hear from David Culley about that decision, about Tyrod starting and just how they are, going into the season. And I'll also let you hear from receiver Mike Conley. So there is just a lot happening, a lot to talk about. And I also want us to do, I've added this segment called When the Crowd Stops Cheering. And I want to talk today about just some of the I don't even know if the right word is backlash that I see a lot of female athletes, in particular, Black female athletes receiving about either not winning, decisions they're making. It's just been really interesting. Sloane Stevens said that she had received over 200 negative or aggressive messages after, I guess after she lost. 2,000, abusive messages. I want to get the right language. Had received over 2,000 abusive messages. And of course, Naomi Osaka has decided to take some time away from the game. And I thought her comments were really interesting. I'm going to play them. Hopefully the YouTube police won't flag me because it wasn't, it's a post-game interview. I should be able to play that. I will let you hear a little bit from Naomi as well. And Simone Biles, who people continuing to troll her about the decisions she made at the Olympics when she clearly needed to take a break, needed to get it together to make sure that she could compete safely. She did keep fighting through it, came back, competed, medaled again. And as she is reminding people that are trolling her, she still has 7 medals and is still the most decorated gymnast and female gymnast in this country. So, what is that about, right? What is it about? And then we cannot end the day, and we will get to this before we leave without talking about the state that I live in. And the I'm going to call it the war on, first it was the war on voting rights, and now there's the war on women. It is craziness. And so I want to have a little conversation around that. But welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll start with Houston Texans. I'll let you hear from head coach David Culley, who is heading into his first regular season game as an NFL head coach. Now, when somebody asked him about that at the presser yesterday, what's it like now coaching your first game? And he said, well, I've had 3 preseason games, and I'm going to approach him like I approached that. He said he talked to the guy that he does talk to, the most recent coach outside of the organization. He always talks about how he leans on Lovie Smith and Romeo Crennel, but he worked with Coach Harbaugh, and that was the most recent coach he worked with. And he said, he told them, listen, when they keep score, it counts. And so he's approached the preseason every game the same. And how will he approach game one? He said basically he's going to approach it the same. He hopes that they do some things better than they did in their last preseason game when they just, made a lot of mistakes. They turned the ball over. That is not a recipe for success. So he talked about that just a little bit. So I will let you. Hey, good morning, Rita. Welcome, welcome. And Rick McCoy. I'm not sure who the Rick McCoy comment, but good morning. Thank you for being a part of Chalk Talk. Let's listen to head coach David Culley, who talked about, he did say that he did announce who is going to start at quarterback, although I think we pretty much already knew. But here's head coach, Texas coach David Culley, talking about getting ready for the week and who's going to be starting at quarterback.
Just the fact that I just know that I keep getting flashbacks to our last preseason game is that the execution wasn't there from a standpoint of turning the ball over. And I do know that when you turn the ball over like that, your chances of winning football games go way down. And that's the one thing that's been kind of sitting with me lately. And, of course, as I said before, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen and correct that this week in practice.
David, with 5 running backs, how do you determine who's active each week?
Well, injuries have something to do with that. Not that any of those guys are injured right now, but then I think that the whole total team, what we got available for the whole total team, that obviously we're not going to carry 5 running backs in the game, but we'll just kind of practice and kind of see how it goes and see which guys fit. We obviously know that, those first 4 guys that we've been playing through the preseason games along with Scotty are all quality players, and we'll just make a decision as we get on into Friday as to which ones that we'll have up and who will be down.
A lot of people are interested in seeing Scotty Phillips get to play with starters instead of backups for 2 years. How do you determine something like that?
Well, it gets back to the fact that, he's got, 3 or 4 guys in front of him that been around and has done that. And it's just that when he has been in there, regardless of who it's been against, he's proven that he belongs in this league. And I don't see him running any differently with the first group than he did with the groups that he was going with.
David, you have stayed away from saying who's starting, who's not starting your camp. When will you feel comfortable this week in talking about starters and that kind of thing?
Well, Tyrod Taylor will start for us at quarterback, for sure.
Ready to disclose any other starters?
No.
I didn't expect you to go that far. I just where you were at that sort of thing.
No. I know that's the one everybody's always wondering. I've it's come up before, but he will start for us on Sunday.
So, Tyrod Taylor is going to start on Sunday, right? For anybody who thought that was a possibility that anyone else would start. So, I know that there are people who still had hope. There are Texans fans who still were holding out hope that perhaps Deshaun Watson and the Texans were holding some secret practices and having some conversations, and that he would indeed be starting this weekend. He will not. He will not see him on the field. What will likely happen is he will be, we know he'll be inactive. That's the expectation. Of course, they don't talk about Deshaun Watson, but that is the thought, is that he will be inactive. He is a part of the roster. They have to carry him as a part of the 53-man roster because, as we talked about last week, the only option is a trade, which has not happened, or to release him, which would be ridiculous. That would be just like beyond ridiculous, right? That would be great for Deshaun, but awful for the organization. There's just no way that they could just release him. That just can't happen. So until the NFL commissioner steps in and says he goes to the exempt list or something happens, this will be what you see all season. So Davis Mills will be the number 2 quarterback. Just hope for the best. You hope that, when I say for the best, I mean that Tyrod stays healthy. One, not just for the Texans, but for him. He's had just some freakish things happening throughout his career, especially in recent years. So, Tyrod is, he's got some talent, and he is not Deshaun Watson, but he's a good option. And when you don't have Deshaun, he is the absolute best options that this Houston Texans team has. So he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans this weekend. So David Culley also talked a little bit about, last week he gave the team off on Thursday. They were already supposed to be off Friday, last kind of weekend, kind of a little bit of a mini, I won't even call it vacation, time off before you get into the grind of the season, which is just now straight through, right? And he gave the team off on Thursday. He was asked about why he did that, especially since he said he was concerned, disappointed in the way the team performed in the last preseason game. Here's how he responded to that.
Well, I did that simply because we had practiced so well those 2 days previous to that. And, I had heard around the league that some people didn't even practice at all last week for the most part. And basically, with those 3 preseason games that we had, with the way we practiced those 2 days that we had last week, I felt like it was more important for us to bond a little bit more before we got out of here and then came back today. And I felt like it worked well. I did know when I decided to tell them to do that, they actually clapped for me, which was the first time they've done that since I've been here. So.
David, you've been with Tyrod for a long time. Since you've been in this building with him, has there been something that stood out to you about his leadership or the way he's kind of commanded the locker room?
Well, Sarah, the thing about him is that he's always been a guy that's not a very vocal guy, but as a quarterback, he's the first guy in here. He's the last guy to leave. Our players see that with him. That's what you expect out of that position. And I have seen him. Of course, I hadn't been with him for the last 3 years, but I have seen him a little bit more going into his 11th year now. I've seen him a little bit more vocal than he has been. He's gone through some things the last 2 years, and I think those experiences have helped him to this point to be able to put him in a position to help lead our football team as he did 3 years ago when I was with him in Buffalo.
He said that he's more motivated this year because of what happened last year. Have you seen that from him?
Without a doubt. And I think, too, Sarah, what's happened is that's where the more vocal. He's been a lot more vocal right now than I've ever remember him being. And that's been a positive for us.
And you mentioned last week about how you have some flexibility in the practice squad. Since movement, how do you project using that, given the limited nature you can do that throughout the season?
Well, I think it would depend on our injury situation. As we move on into the week, we'll see what guys are available, what guys that are still going to be able to go for us. And if not, then the ability to be able to take those practice squad guys and move them up is very valuable for us because we treat those guys just like they're going to be active and they practice like they're going to be active. So I think that's a plus for us being able to do that because we have some guys on the practice squad that we feel like could play. As John mentioned earlier about Scotty. That's a guy that if we had to put him in the game to play right now, I'd be very confident in that, and as well as some of the other guys that we have on our practice squad. Although he's not on practice squad, but.
So that's David Culley. He answered the question about why he gave the team off last Thursday. And he said it was the first time they clapped for him, right? Like he was surprised that since he's been there, it's the first time he got a round of applause. So it's just that simple, right? Give the guys a day off. And he also talked about Tyrod, some things he's seen with him. And at the end, he was talking about the practice squad, using those players. Now, he's not willing to name any other starters. Obviously, that's just not how this Texans team is obviously going to operate. Although we, feel like that there's guys we know that are going to start. Laremy Tunsil is practicing. They're still trying to, hoping that he gets his stamina a little better, as he is still recovering from COVID. And, so they're hoping that they will, be able to use him because they don't want to take any chances. So they're hoping his stamina is a lot better. He's come off the COVID list. He's been practicing with them, and they expect that he'll be better this week, hopefully ready to go on Sunday. Offensive lineman Charlie Heck has tested positive for COVID and is on the COVID list, so he will not play. They're still waiting on Marcus Cannon, who has not played since 2019. He's making his way back, and they're just kind of taking it slowly. Another player that will not play this weekend, obviously, is cornerback Bradley Roby. And it is he's serving out on a suspension dating back to last season, so he has to sit out this game. He's obviously disappointed that he can't play. He understands it, and it is they're looking forward to getting him back out there for the second week. So, getting a win. Coach talked about what would it feel like to get a win, to start out with a win, and obviously he said, "Listen, it's hard to win in this league." And that basically their motto has always been the only game that matters is the next game. So their game with Jacksonville is the one that really counts. And obviously he'd like to get a win. He wants to get a win every time he goes out. But to start out against Jacksonville with a win would be great. And let's face it, Jacksonville is a team that they need to beat. I mean, it's one of the opportunities they have for a win. Jacksonville has, not because they have a new coach, because they're Urban Meyer, but because they've got a new quarterback. They just haven't, they weren't very good last year. They're not going to be great this year either. A lot of new, staff, new players, a rookie quarterback. So there's some opportunities for the Texans this weekend. This is one of the games that they need to win. There are not a lot of games. And I've heard different people like, oh, they won't win any. Well, they'll win some games. And, they're going to surprise some people. I don't know. I don't really know who. And so when I was asked how many games they could win, when I went through the schedule and I tried to say, okay, what are the games? Maybe I pull up their schedule for you and look at like what are the games that the Texans could actually win? When I look at their schedule, right? So I felt like Jacksonville was one of those games. Let me see if I can pull it up. So they start. Why does it look like this? Okay, so let me see if I can share this screen and we can look at this together, and you can give me your thoughts about which of these games you think are perhaps winnable for the Texans this year, right? That doesn't look very good. You know what? Let me find another view for you. That's not a good one. Let's stop that. Okay, let me find another visual of the schedule that I can show you. But when you look at the schedule, there are, where are we? I think there's a better copy of that schedule if I actually go to their website and pull that up. Okay, so let's do that. So, regular season. And I will scroll through it and show it to you. No, I don't need all that. Okay, so here we have it. So you see week 1, they play the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's a game they can win. I think that's a game they should win. I think it's a game that they really do need to win. Week 2, they go to Cleveland and play the Browns. I don't see them winning that game in Cleveland, okay? Week 3, they have a Thursday night game. They play host to the Carolina Panthers. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a game. Let's say that's a game that is winnable. I don't know that I would pick them. Let's see what they look like in the first 2 weeks. But that should be a game that is within reach, okay? Then week 4, they go to Buffalo. Yeah, they're not going to win that game. And then week 5, they are back home against the Patriots. I don't see them beating the Patriots. And so it's interesting because when I was talking to a colleague and we look at the first 5 games and we saw them very differently. I could be wrong, but so of these first 5 games, I see Jacksonville as a opportunity for a win. I don't see them winning in Cleveland. I see Carolina as a chance for a win. So maybe 2. I don't see them winning at Buffalo, and I don't see them beating the Patriots. Then at week 6, they go to the Colts. I don't know about that one, but I wouldn't pick against the Colts on the road. That game has always been interesting for this organization, regardless of really everything else, like talent, new quarterback, veteran quarterback. Then they go to Arizona and play the Cardinals. Don't see them winning that game. They play the Rams week 8 at home. Don't see them beating the Rams. Then week 9, they play Miami. That's interesting. That could be a winnable game. It's at Miami. They should have a shot, but who knows? Week 10, they'll be fine. It's a bye. Then week 11, they go to Tennessee and play the Titans. I don't see them winning at Tennessee. They play the Jets. Always an opportunity to beat the Jets. It's a game at home. So there's a chance for that. They're at home the next couple of weeks. They play the Jets. Then they play the Colts. Maybe they can beat the Colts at home. They play Seattle week 14. I don't see that. That's probably a loss. Week 15, they play the Jaguars again. The good thing about being in your conference in your division, you get to see that team twice. And the Jaguars are a team you probably do want to see twice because they're probably not going to be very good. I don't know how they'll be at week 15, but that's a game I think the Texans have an opportunity to win. They play the Chargers week 16. I would not pick against the Chargers, but maybe that's one of those games where they surprise somebody. The 49ers week 17, don't see them winning in San Francisco. And then the last week of the season, the Titans, they play at home. And who knows what will be happening, what will be, important, what will be going on that week. So that's just kind of me running through the schedule without even, and listen, along the way, injuries happen. Anything can happen to change a lot of that stuff, right? Good morning, Charles Drayden. Good morning. Charlotte, oh my gosh, I'm super excited. I have to see you here on Facebook. I can't wait to see you. I've not seen you since you came and actually helped me, after my fire, clean up my house. So, hello, my friend. And she says Miami may be their only shot. Yeah, but I think Jacksonville's not going to be very good either. And you think they can win the bye? That's a good one, Charles. Yes, I do. What's the difference between American football and rugby? A lot. And you'll have to tune in for one of my Chalk Talk segments where we're talking about learning the game, and I'll be happy to help you out. And you're right. It is going to be a very interesting season. I just don't even know really what to expect. It will be interesting in a number of ways. And here's the other thing. I think that I think COVID will also make it interesting because, as you look around the country, if you look at college football games from last weekend, the stadiums were packed. There were nobody was wearing masks, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So college football is going to be, they're going to be super spreader events all over the country. My alma mater can pack in what? How many people can fit in Kyle Field now? They're packed, and they won't wear masks. Oh my goodness. Anyway, it is going to be an interesting season. You're absolutely right. Let me let you hear from Chris Conley. I think I called him Mike Conley. I get him, I think Conley, I'm thinking about the basketball player. But Chris Conley, who played for the Jaguars last season, is a receiver here, has looked good with Tyrod Taylor throughout preseason and the games and just in training camp and practice. And this is Chris Conley talking about heading into the season, facing the Jaguars, his old team, and also his thoughts about Tyrod Taylor. Here's Chris Conley.
For sure. I think every team, every year is a new team, regardless of coaching staff and player changes. You see how the team is different here this year, and we've had coaching staff and personnel changes. The Jags definitely will be a different team. They have some core players that they return, but every year a team has a new identity.
Can the coaches, can you help them in a game plan, talking about some of the players that are your teammates?
I have experience with some of the guys there, and if they ask me questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But at the end of the day, that's part of the reason why they're coaches. They've been scouting them this whole time. They've been watching every rep that they've had. If there's anything I can shed light on, I'll try to do that. But I feel like they have a solid plan in place already, and I'll just do whatever I can to help and be ready to play.
How do you feel about where Tyrod is right now going into the
I feel good. I feel like we as an offense have all been progressing. And him at the helm, he's been doing the same thing. He has a big part in that for everyone else and all the other position groups. So I feel like the steps are being taken in the right way. We don't want to peak too soon, but we feel like we'll be ready for Sunday.
He understandably didn't run a lot in the preseason, or a lot of design runs. When you guys start to deploy more of those, how do you think that can open stuff up for the passing game?
I think that he's a threat with in three places, three areas. He's a threat with his arm, his legs, and with his mind. And so we fully expect him to make whatever plays are available to him. In terms of a game plan and game plan runs, that's not my job, and we don't have all of the game plan put in right now. Anyway, but I'm sure that he'll be ready to affect the field in a bunch of different ways.
That's Chris Conley, and the first question they asked him was really about what he could, tell the Texans, his new team, about his former team, the Jaguars. And like he said, there's a lot that's different. That's what coaches do. They're scouting. They know what they need to know. But if there's anything he could do to be helpful, he, of course, would be happy to do that. Charlotte said that it is very scary out there. It is indeed very scary, right? Playing with the banner. So we have a segment called When the Crowd Stops Cheering. It's a prelude to a documentary that I hope to begin producing before the year is out. I'm working on getting the funding so I can get that done. But in the meantime, I'm going to do segments here. I will write some stories, and just until I can, because I don't want to. This When the Crowd Stops Cheering project has been on my mind for at least a decade. And I feel like if I don't do it now, make myself, will myself a way to get it done that I won't. So, and When the Crowd Stops Cheering means different things for different people. But this week's segment, I wanted to let you hear from Naomi Osaka. And so When the Crowd Stops Cheering is really born out of my experience covering athletes for a really long time. And the reason I think it's important is because it's not just about athletes, right? Everybody has a moment in their life where their crowd has stopped cheering. Maybe it's, on your job and you've got new management, or somebody new has come in that they brought in to replace you. Maybe that's when your crowd stops cheering. And maybe it's a relationship, maybe in your home. No one's cheering for you. And I don't mean literally like applauding when you walk in, but I'm talking about in a way that really, really counts. Maybe it's transitions, and especially after this pandemic, and I say after it because we are still really in it. I think a lot of people are having to deal with doing something new. The crowd they had not being there anymore, in a situation that was positive and working, or at least was functional, may not be that anymore. It just may not exist. Having to create new opportunities, and just having to deal with whatever the hiccup is for you in your life, right? So Naomi Osaka, I feel like, is in that moment. And it's not that people aren't literally cheering for her, because they are. They are cheering for her. Now, in that match when she lost at the U.S. Open over the weekend, when was that? Was that Friday night? I was up so late. I think maybe it was Friday night, because then I watched Frances Tiafoe play a great 5-set match. So I was up all night watching tennis Friday night. And the crowd actually started to cheer for the young woman from Canada because she just played so well, right? Naomi Osaka lost that match in 3 sets. And when she didn't close out Fernandez in the second set, Fernandez felt like she could win it. Now, of course, Fernandez said she felt like she could win it from the start. But when you get to the third set, it's anybody's match. It's because you're back to even. And she played great, great tennis. Naomi had some frustration in the second set. She banged her racket a couple times. And what was really kind of funny, but like really more ridiculous, was that Pam Shriver, who I like, said, "Oh, she's had these struggles with mental health." Slamming your racket, for a person like Pam Shriver, who used to bang her racket like she was hitting drums. Let's not make it all that, right? Because if we look at, one match, you hear Pam and Chris saying, the players should show some emotion, scream, or hit your racket or do something. And then when someone hits the racket, not someone, Naomi, we need to get a better grip on understanding when people talk about mental health, that it's not just some term we use out, right? It's not just something we throw out, that we really get an understanding of what these stresses and pressures are. And, I call it, it is the pressure of expectation, what it feels like. So Naomi Osaka, after her match, she did meet the media. I want you to hear a couple of comments she made that to me are really very telling. So here is Naomi Osaka after the match she lost the U.S. Open. This is her. Let's see. So that was Naomi Osaka in a moment that was clearly really difficult for her. Right? And I think it is, it was admirable that she said, no, I want to finish. She wanted to finish. She wanted to try to get through it. And she said it's difficult to articulate. But when she said, when I win, I don't feel happy, I feel relieved, that spoke volumes, right? You just, you kind of feel that for her. And what it says is she does need to take some time for herself. She needs to figure out what she wants. And listen, what is she, 23, 24 years old? She has won, 3 or 4 Grand Slams. She's made a mark. If she never plays another tennis match again, she doesn't owe the game anything. What she needs to do is find a way for herself to, find that joy. It's so sad to see somebody, when you know what it takes to get out on that court, even in a loss. I mean, it takes a lot to play and compete at the level that she's competing at, and to not feel happiness when you win, to just feel relief. And I don't know if any of you can, if you think about that, think about something that you do and you do well, and then you say, well, I just feel relieved when I do it. I'm really good at my job. I'm really good at this thing in my business, but when I'm doing really well, I'm just relieved. That when you spend as much time as she spends, as someone who competes professionally in tennis has to spend playing the game, preparing to play the game, and all you feel is relief when you win, that's a problem. And like she said, I don't think that's normal. And so she's going to step away and figure it out. So I hope that she does. I was having a conversation with Zena last week, and we talked about what some of her struggles may be. And I don't know, but I imagine, she is, I don't know Naomi, so I have no idea. But think about this. Being a strong Black woman, I mean, she's Japanese, but she's really stepped into that space of, and not denying her Japanese heritage, but as a Black woman and speaking up and having an active role in social justice. And so who does she have around her who can help her navigate that space, right? Her mom can't really help her. Her mother's Japanese. She doesn't, as much as she loves her daughter and as much empathy as she may have, she doesn't know what that feels like, who is around her that can really help her. Now, I was told that she'd reached out to maybe Oprah. Oprah's a great one, but she can't really help her navigate this space she's an athlete, she's a Black woman, she's been, upfront and very vocal about social justice, social injustice, Black Lives Matter. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot to that, and so having somebody who can help her navigate it, and she might not even know that she needs that. You know what I mean? This is just me from the outside wondering what that suffering comes from. We know that oftentimes when the stress of something is because there's pressure. And what is the pressure? Is it the pressure of being on this stage and kind of stepping out and not having anybody that can relate to it, that can help guide you? I don't know. This is just me totally hypothesizing. I don't know. But I wonder, but I do. I send prayers up for her that she gets the help and support that she needs, and that her team finds her the right people, people that she can connect with, that could perhaps help her navigate this, because she actually is suffering. So that was Naomi Osaka after her match at the U.S. Open, and she said, "I don't know when I'll play again." And so, she should take as much time as she needs. And if she never plays again, we will miss her as a tennis player. But what's most important is that she finds out what makes her happy. What is it that brings her joy, and that she goes and does that. So that is our when the crowd stops cheering moment, and it's not so much that other people have stopped cheering. I mean, she's got to cheer for herself. She said, when I win, I'm not happy. And when I feel relieved. And when I lose, I'm sad. So there's never any joy or happiness as it relates to this tennis thing that we all want to see her play selfishly, because we know she's talented and we enjoy it. So there's so many levels to when the crowd stops cheering, and so I encourage you to think about it in your own life and think about what you can do to either get you a new crowd, cheer for yourself, take the steps that you need to make to reinvigorate yourself. I don't want to say reinvent yourself, but do something different, because I've heard from so many people throughout this pandemic, people who are fellow speakers who have felt it. They're used to being on a stage and having people literally cheer, and a lot of that's gone away. And so when you're on a Zoom and you're doing a presentation, you may still have a very big audience, but it's a different feel. It's kind of like doing TV and looking into a camera, right? It's just you and the camera. There are people out there, but you don't have them in the room have the energy of them in the room. Like at the U.S. Open, when they had the crowd back in the stadium, it was very different from last year. There were no crowds, as they went through the tournaments that they played. So that is what when the crowd stops cheering is. Last week we talked about J.R. Smith, and I'm continuing to follow him. I'm reaching out to see if I can get him to join us on Chalk Talk one day, because this is, former NBA basketball player who is gone to college. He's studying liberal arts. He's playing golf, and he's doing the next thing, right? And I just think it is not even always about finances, right? Because when you think about Naomi Osaka, she made a ton of money. So it's not just the money. Oftentimes we think, it's the athletes that end up blowing their money and they're broke. No, I'm not even talking about that piece, which is understandable if you have all this money and then you don't, and then you're sad and you're trying to figure out how to make it. I'm talking about you are still financially viable, right? But you don't really know how to exist. Like, what do I do? Okay, now I'm done with that. When I walk in the room, literally, there's no crowd. Like, there's no crowd. There's no team. I don't know how to be. For the first time, for some people, since they were kids, if they played like Pop Warner or AAU basketball, or your little kid playing tennis, or whatever your sport may have been, what do you do when this thing that you've identified with for your entire life, in some cases, is no longer there? What do you do when the crowd stops cheering? that is what these segments will be. And so, sending peace and light and lots of love to Naomi Osaka as she figures out what she will do next, how she will navigate this time, figure out what makes her happy. Like, I can't wait to hear and see her someplace smiling, saying, "This is what I figured out. This is the thing that makes me happy." And maybe one day it's tennis again. But whatever it is, I hope that she finds it. And whatever it is for you, I hope you find it as well. As always, thank you for being a part of Chalk Talk. I do want to say this: Houston Astros. We cannot have a show and not talk about the Houston Astros. Houston Astros beat the Mariners yesterday, 11-2. They're still 5.5 games atop the American League West, and I just don't quite get all of the Dusty Baker bashing. Okay, it's Texas. I kind of get it, but they're 5.5 games ahead of in first place. They're in first place, and the next team is 5.5 games back. This is September. This is what it comes down to. They're making the push toward postseason, and I think this team has a good shot. They've got to stay healthy. People were excited to see Marin Gonzalez, and being healthy, and and not having those slumps with their bats. I don't know how those hitting slumps they get into sometime, how that can be attributed to Dusty Baker's management or leadership style, but whatever. So Houston Astros are at a 6 a.m. homestand. I'm going to try to get out there maybe on Thursday or Friday. Nope, probably Friday night to get out to a game, Friday or Saturday. Of course, on Sunday I'll be at Energy Stadium as the Texans open the regular season and they play host to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then there is this. The state of Texas that I call home continues to disappoint, and I don't know, it's just embarrassing, the stuff happening in the state. There's the all-out assault on voting rights, okay? And now there's this war on women with these laws, these rules about abortion. Listen, here's what's scary for me, and this is what I'm going to wrap up today. What we're seeing is like the minority is ruling. It's very apartheidish. That's what keeps coming to mind. These are smaller groups of people that are making these decisions for the masses, because I don't know, did we need to, get back to teaching? Well, I think we do. Get back to teaching, civics and social studies or government or whatever you want to call it in the school, so that people can grow up understanding about the importance of voting and about being just that whole civil discourse and the process of governing and what's involved. I don't know what has to happen, but these are really, really scary times. I don't know about you. It's embarrassing. It's really frightening. I don't know how it's going to ultimately pan out, but I just think we need to all pay attention, and we all have to be very active. You've got to vote now more than ever, and because, listen, if the Republicans, and I don't usually, I have real partisan conversations, but that's what it's become now. If the Republicans have their way, people that look like me won't have many opportunities to vote and to have input and have my voice heard. Yeah, you're right, Charles. It is. It's scarier than many of us realize. When you talk about our democracy being on the brink, teetering on the brink of disaster, that is where we are. And so for all of you who have been disheartened by the fact that the U.S. has ended the war in Afghanistan and you're worried about the women and children there, I can appreciate that. But we need to have some of that same energy and passion for the women and children here in this country. I'm just saying, our democracy is in peril. And so that's not me being dramatic, but that is important. And so I remind you, let your representatives hear from you. I know that Ted Cruz, if you're a Texan, is not responsive. can't be trusted. We know he doesn't care. I get all of that. All of the above are true. He still needs to hear from you. He still needs to hear from me. He needs to hear from all of us because it's important. It's necessary. We cannot just sit on the sideline and say, I can't believe they're doing this to us. We've got to find a way to be involved and let our voices be heard. That's all we got, right? That's all we have. So listen, thank you guys for being a part of Chalk Talk. I appreciate you rocking with me. Make sure that you share this broadcast with your community, however you're watching it, whether you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook, maybe you're watching it on Periscope, or if you're watching it on LinkedIn. I hope that you will share it with your community and let me hear from you. If there is something you'd like for me to cover on Chalk Talk, send me an email. You can reach me on Twitter, whatever platform you're viewing me on, just reach out to me there, or you can always email me, kim@kimwhitedavis.com. That's my email address. Let me know, hey, I enjoy Chalk Talk, or I checked out Chalk Talk. Maybe it's your first time. Here's something I'd like for you to, can you talk about? Can you get this person on the show? Let me know, and we'll do that. So that's it for now. Have a great, great week. Remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. If you have not gotten vaccinated, I am going to encourage you to do so. It is really necessary. That's another thing that's scary. Get vaccinated. When you're moving around, put your mask on, right? Put your mask on, people. Like, we could have been done with this, but people won't wear the mask, and they're not getting vaccinated. So I know it's your own choice, but move smartly. You know, I knew 3 people that passed away from COVID in 1 week. All 3 had not been vaccinated, right? That's not anything I'm excited to tell and share with you. That's just a reality. So please do get vaccinated. Practice social distancing. Wear your mask. And, be careful who you're around. Like, I'm not around very many people because, if you don't want to be vaccinated and you don't want to wear a mask, then I need to be someplace else. And I am fully vaccinated. And at this point, I'm getting tested every 2 weeks because I cover the Texans, and that's required for me to have the level of access I do. I'm fine with that. It lets me know my status. So love you guys. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. Next Tuesday at 11 on Chalk Talk. In between, follow me online on my social platforms. Charlotte, we got to get together soon, my friend. Have a great day, everybody.